My name is Edward Drake, and for Creative Project, I am recording an album under the alternate rubric. The name of the album is The Treehouse Society, and it is a concept album that blends sonic signatures from mid-century popular music and modern-day Indian bedroom pop. My aim is to produce a whole body of work, which includes the 30 to 35 minute long album, an album cover, a music video for one of the singles, as well as a website to house it all when presenting it for submission. After I've submitted the assignment, I hope to release the album physically and for digital release after I've graduated. Through my time at Whopper, I've been producing, recording and mixing my own music under the name Paperback Fort, and have been playing that live around the Perth scene for a few years now. I've always had a passion for recording, producing and mixing, and this year, when I heard about the Creative Project, I aimed to use this year as a great way to educate myself on how to produce and find sounds that I like, in tandem with my jazz piano education. My album is a concept album, and the story revolves around a fictional clubhouse from the 60s and its eventual demise as its patrons get older and the passage of time moves forward. With my lyrics, I aim to capture the idea of joy and love during the time of the Treehouse Society's peak, the grief of having to leave it, and the acceptance of the passage of time. Both mid-century popular music and Indian bedroom pop music evoke nostalgia, both in different ways. Mid-century music because of its tape and its analog sound and its general being in the past, that evokes nostalgia to most people that hear it. From an Indian bedroom pop lens, I have my own sense of nostalgia growing up listening to that sort of music. My aim is to blend those two ideas together to try and evoke nostalgia for all audiences that listen to it. I've used Logic Pro to create all my songs, and my process has been mainly drum focused. As Jack Stratton from Wolfpack says in his mixing masterclass,
the history of breakthroughs in mixing, it's the history of drums, okay?
So the way that I start my songs is I record or figure out a drum reference mix, something I like, and I try and recreate it. When I'm happy with the way it sounds, then I write a melody and write chords to it, and from then I add the layers and fill in the song as much as I can. For this creative project, my sonic palette has consisted of a Mellotron strings and flutes, the UAD Electra 88 Rhodes patch, the Shearwater Imagerio upright piano, the UAD Polymax synth, as well as other patches I've created in my time producing in the past, including vibraphones and other synths from the ES2 and the retro synth Logic patch. I've recorded horn, guitar, string and vocal parts, all in my home studio, using an SM58 and a G76 from Melbourne. Drums for 2 of the tracks have been recorded at Crank Studios with Lee Buttle. The main production and mixing tools I've been using to create this nostalgic mid-century sound has been a lot from the UAD Essentials plugin, which I purchased halfway through the year. Namely, one that I've been using a lot is the UAD Verve Analog Essentials, which is a bunch of different analog tape emulators. I've also been using UAD's Oxide Tape Recorder, Logic's True Tape Delay, Logic's Chroma Glow, UAD's LA2A compressors, and also a graphics EQ. As this is a multidisciplinary work, I have collaborated with third-year film students on a music video of the single Long Nights on the Sleeper Train, which I submitted last semester. When talking to the director, I made sure that the visual aesthetic of the video incorporated mid-century props and production design, as well as the uses of 4:3 aspect ratio, which you're seeing right now, and as well as a playful and cartoon-like set, which mixes the both indie and the mid-century. We wrapped filming on the 12th of October, and it's currently being edited by the film students. Other visuals of the album include the album cover and the website, which are both currently in production. I've taken inspiration from both of these things from the auteur Wes Anderson, the filmmaker. His design style is very heavily inspired by mid-century architectural as well as design elements, and I hope to try and engage with those when I'm designing the album cover and the website. It's been difficult to try and figure out which ways I would like to blend both genres. When I started the assignment, I had a rough idea of what I'd like to make it sound like, and I had a few examples of tracks that blended both mid-century and bedroom pop, but it's taken a while to narrow down what exactly I meant by that. An example of how different these two genres actually are is specifically with the drums. The drum mixing and arrangement tropes of both genres are vastly different. With mid-century pop, the drums are very saturated, they're very compressed, but then they're also very quiet in the mix, and they use more melodic arrangements. What I mean by this is, if you look at a standard indie pop song, you'll do hi-hats and snare on 2 and 4, just a basic rock pattern, and then go to the ride cymbal during the chorus, as you can hear on this track by Mac DeMarco. I tried to replicate this drum arrangement, mixing as if it was from the 1950s or the 1960s, using the Oxide tape recorder, as well as LA2As, to really saturate the sound. It worked during the hi-hat and snare part, although the snare was a bit too loud. But then the ride cymbal, when the ride cymbal came in, it was overbearing and drowned everything else out in the mix. So when I was trying to find mid-century pop songs that I liked the sound of the drums, I noticed that the drums were very quiet in the mix, and also they were doing more melodic arrangements, meaning they weren't just doing 2 and 4 on the snare, and they weren't just playing the ride cymbal in the chorus. An example of this is Chris Montez's Watch What Happens.
What magic you'll see. La, la, la.
Ain't No Mountain High Enough is a great example of this.
My name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, 'cause baby...
So with one song specifically that I've been working on, I've had to readjust the way that the drums work, and I've been lucky that with this song I have been MIDI painting with the drums. MIDI programming and finger drumming is something that I've been working on, which was a struggle. In the first semester when recording drums, I told Callum to play them with the ride cymbal in the chorus and with the crash cymbal, and now retroactively I've had to latch the graphics EQ and dip the high end when the crash comes in because it was too overbearing. I ended up practicing all mid-year break on finger drumming and MIDI programming, and I've worked out that making sure everything's humanized and there's lots of ghost notes in the snares is the most important thing. Here's a picture here. All of the colors represents different velocities, so you can see when there's a snare roll, it gets louder at the front and then shorter at the end, softer at the end. And so it's been good working on trying to make realistic drum sounds with MIDI, because then I can make all these mistakes and redo them and fix them up in post. Like I said earlier, my influences have been varied, so it's been a bit of a challenge to narrow them down into what I'm trying to reference. My mid-century influences ended up being cemented as Margot Gurrion, The Four Tops, Chris Montez, Blossom Dearie, Frankie Valli, and the Beatles. Not as much as the Jeff Emmerich era, but all the stuff before. So from Revolver earlier. The modern day indie and bedroom pop influences have come from artists such as Mac DeMarco, Pearl and the Oysters, Benny Sings, Rex Orange County,
How you been? Have you told your mother about me?
and that's it. There is a wave of mixing indie pop with mid-century music that I have started noticing, and some artists that I believe are creating this sound that I really have taken inspiration from is Clairo's album Charm, as well as Australia's own Way Dynamic and his album Massive Shoe. And then some Instagram musicians such as Glitter Party, and Rue Jacobs. This year has been really formative in my producing and mixing education. It's really helped me listen to music with open ears and not just as a passive listener. Through the year, I've been able to improve on working on my reference mixing, and I've improved in my ability to work out how a sonic signature has been created. I've been listening more closely when it comes to tracks I like and figuring out why I like them and if they're compressed or not and why the vocals sound like that and a lot of that sort of stuff, which I wasn't thinking about as much, but now I've really honed in on. I still have a long way to go with mixing songs to sound like the 50s and 60s. It's hard to create an analog sound when you're doing it all digitally, and I have been thinking about bouncing all of my tracks onto a cassette and digitizing them before I present them to university. It's been a mental game, definitely. Some people can obsess over mixes, and I feel like I've definitely done that, and maybe the songwriting has felt a bit lackluster as I've focused over just on the mix. But I'm happy with the end product so far. It's given me a lot to think about as I continue producing and mixing after my time at WAPA. I want to get into experimenting with miking techniques on drums, as well as learning how to set up a room to record many instruments at the same time. I hope you enjoy listening to the Treehouse Society. I've had fun making it. This is Edward Drake for the Creative Project. Thank you very much.